purpose of this video series is to get you more familiar with Autodesk Inventor. Autodesk Inventor is a very large program. There's a lot of features, there's a lot of functionality to it. But my goal is to get you familiar with just the absolute basics of how to make parts within Inventor so that you can get comfortable with actually making those parts and hopefully get comfortable enough so that you can start exploring the software on your own and starting to learn some of its additional functionality. So before we get going, let's talk a little bit about what is Autodesk Inventor. Autodesk Inventor is a three-dimensional computer-aided design or CAD program. Now, there's a lot of different CAD programs out there, and Autodesk Inventor is one of many that are used out in industry. And although there's a lot of different types of programs, a lot of them work very similarly. So if you've not seen this type of program before, hopefully you'll kind of pick up the basics of what a three-dimensional CAD program does and how we do it. And then once you get familiar with the basics, a lot of the different programs out there are very similar in concept. It's just usually the button clicks or the mouse clicks that you need to get through to make it do what you want to do. So, again, we're going to start off with just the fundamentals. Now, one of the other things that we talk about Autodesk Inventor being is a parametric design program. So now what does that mean is that there are parameters that are stored within the computer that we can modify. Now, some of those parameters might be the color of the object, it might be the density of the object, but more commonly we think of those parameters as dimensions of the object and constraints on those objects. So how we can make them. And now the thing that leads us into it is a concept called design intent. Now, design intent really gets into how we build parts and how we put parts together inside the computer. It's not necessarily how we would build the parts necessarily in reality if we were to make them physically, but how we would build them inside the computer to get the part to look and perform the way that we want it to. And what that means is that a lot of times we don't need to have the final dimensions, the final everything known about the part before we start making it. And what we can do is we can kind of put in the shape and kind of the different features of a part. And then we can always go back and change those parameters, those dimensions, those constraints, those other things associated with it to change it later on. And that makes it very easy to do that. And that's one of the main strengths of parametric design. And parametric design has been used for many, many years now. It's kind of the standard for doing any sort of three-dimensional modeling out there. And it really makes it efficient in making modifications or changes and everything like that too. So with that kind of gives you the basics of what Autodesk Inventor is. Let's get into some of the part functionality.